A small-town lawyer is getting big-time laughs as a humorous speaker. Luther Beauchamp is short of stature and continues his law practice in an office only 2 blocks from his place of birth. Luther explains that even though there's not much of him above the ground, his roots are deep. His branches are getting longer, too. Presentations to various groups have been made from Miami to Memphis, Savannah to Albuquerque, and in many other places, large and small. Speaking to state, regional, and national associations, as well as corporate and educational groups, Luther Beauchamp delights audiences with his fresh, unique style. His humor is so clean, you can take it to church.
Thank you, Don. I'll try to be short. How am I doing so far? I can remember when I was just a little boy, about as tall as I am now. My brother came to me. My brother's now a circuit judge down in Florida. And he came to me and said, I've heard that if you'll rub grease on the top of your head, you'll grow taller. Now, I've looked at this crowd and I've seen several heads that look like they've been rubbed. But I went back to him later and I said, W.O., I've tried a whole can of the stuff. It didn't help at all. He said, what did you use? I said, Crisco. He said, no wonder. That's shortening. And it's probably no wonder I became a lawyer, because the day I was born, I didn't get any respect. The doctor looked at me and told my dad, said, why don't you name him Theophilus? Dad said, Theophilus? That sounds like a Greek name. We're not Greek. Why should we call him Theophilus? The doctor said, well, he's the awfulest looking thing I've ever seen. Just 2 weeks ago today, Vera and I celebrated 64 years of marriage. That's 32 for her and 32 for me. I guess I could have married any girl I pleased, but until I met Vera, I had never pleased one. I keep reminding her that it's better to have loved a short person than never to have loved a tall. I believe the secret of success in our marriage is based on one very simple rule. I don't try to run her life, and I don't try to run mine. We have a lot of people who come to Florida during the wintertime, and then they go back before it gets so hot down there, and go back to the north. Actually, we have a few who come down and stay in the summer, and they go back in the winter, but they're not real bright. But there's a couple from Indiana who comes down each year, and they became very good friends with another couple who stay there in Florida. And so when they came back last October, they asked the friends in Florida, said, how were things while we were gone? They said, we really had a good summer. And said, one of the things we did is we went over to Gainesville and took a memory course while we were during the summer, and said it's helped us a lot, because as we get older, we tend to forget more things. And the other couple said, yeah, we have that problem too. And the man asked him, said, well, how does the course work? And he said, well, they teach you to think, when you hear the person's name, think of some object that reminds you of that name, and then associate that object with the person's face, and the next time you see the person, you'll be able to think of the object, and that'll give you the name. Sort of a memory hook. He said, that's really neat. What's the name of the course you took? He said, well, the name of the course is it's a flower. It's red on the top. It's got a long green stem with some thorns. And the other guy said, Rose? He said, that's right. And he turned to his wife and he said, Rose, what's the name of that course we took? Not too long ago, I went to see an optometrist. And I walked into the doctor's office, and the receptionist was very friendly. She said, if you don't see what you're looking for, you came to the right place. I finally got in to see the doctor, and the doctor said, what seems to be your problem? I said, well, doctor, I keep seeing spots in front of my eyes. He said, have you seen another doctor? I said, no, just spots. He gave me a prescription for glasses, and when I wear these glasses, I can see those spots much more clearly now. Actually, it's not this pair. The first pair I got, I'd had them about 10 days, and I sat on them and broke them. I don't think it improved my hindsight at all. I called back down to the doctor's office, and that receptionist answered, and I told her I'd broken the glasses. And I said, does that mean I'll have to be examined all over? She said, no, just your eyes. And I went to see a dentist, and I went in and I said, doctor, I sure hope you can help me. all my teeth are turning yellow. What should I do? He said, wear a brown tie. We had a lady in our hometown who had been going to see a psychiatrist over in Gainesville for 2 or 3 years, going over about twice a month. And she finally told the doctor, said, I want to know what you found wrong with me. The doctor said, I don't think I should tell you. She said, I insist. I've been paying you good money. I want to know what you found wrong with me. Finally, after a lot of persistence on her part, the doctor said, okay, lady, I'll tell you. Said, what you have we technically call cashew maraschino syndrome. She said, what does that mean? He said, lady, that means you're nutty as a fruitcake. She said, I want another opinion. He said, okay, you're ugly too. I'm reminded of the 3 years I spent here in Nashville when I was a student at Vanderbilt University School of Law. And how many of you are familiar with the great football tradition at Vanderbilt University? I think during the 3 years I was here, I think the worst record Vanderbilt had was something like 6-4-1. We lost 6 on the road, 4 at home, and 1 game was canceled. We were scheduled to play William and Mary one year, and William got sick, and Mary beat us right by herself. We played Alabama here in Nashville, and they blocked our opening kickoff. By the second quarter, our punter was signaling for a fair catch on the snap from center. They beat us about 65-0. After the game, Coach Bear Bryant told the Vanderbilt coach, he said, Coach, if you don't change some things, everybody you play is going to beat the stuffing out of you. He said, what do you mean? Coach Bryant says, we could tell who was going to carry the ball every time you came out of the huddle. He said, no, our coach said, no way you could do that. He said, oh, yes, we could. He said, you've only got 4 backs. He said, when they came out of the huddle, 3 of those guys were grinning from ear to ear. We got trying to figure out our problems, and we analyzed some of the problems as to why we didn't play any better than we did back then. We got a lot of penalties. For one reason, we always had a pregame prayer. And we got a delay of game penalty because we had so much to pray about that... And then we got a lot of offsides penalties, and we got to analyzing that and found out that we had a quarterback who stuttered. And our center was ticklish. After I left Vanderbilt, I had an old car that had a Vanderbilt sticker on it, and I wore it with pride for a long time, and finally decided to scrape the sticker off, and when I did, the car immediately began to run and pass better. To close now with a couple of very short poems. I collect short things. Well, my wife does too, for that matter. And, I think this first poem was written by one of my classmates quite a number of years ago. Roses are red, violets are blue. Some poems rhyme, and some don't. This last one does. I like a finished speaker. I really, really do. I don't mean one who's polished. I mean one who's through. And I am. Thank you very much.